recognizes the gentle lady from California, Ms. Barragán, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Rush, for holding this important hearing on offshore wind, which has great potential to help our country reach 100% clean energy while creating good paying union jobs along our coast. Ms. Zeichel, one barrier to offshore wind is the lengthy amount of time it's expected to take to build an offshore wind farm, which could be 5 to 10 years. The climate crisis means we must move as fast as possible. What are the most meaningful steps the federal government can take to shorten this length of time so we can connect that clean energy to our grid faster?
Great, thank you for your question. The encouraging thing is I think between the steps that have been taken by the Biden administration plus the good legislation that's been proposed in the bipartisan infrastructure framework, as well as the Build Back Better legislation, we've got the core components there. And first and foremost is we just, as an industry, need certainty and predictability in the permitting process. Second, the tax credits and the direct pay options are crucially important as we think about the future and where we need to go. And the last piece of this, I think, is around the domestic manufacturing incentives. We spent a lot of time today talking about the jobs and the opportunities that we have to grow this industry and create jobs. And those manufacturing credits, I think, would be very crucial to us not only being able to build these projects, but having a higher and higher degree of domestic content in the projects themselves.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hardy, while offshore wind won't cause an oil spill like we're living with in Southern California, it will expand maritime activity at our ports, oceans, and coastal communities. How are you working with communities to advance environmental justice and address frontline community impacts?
Yeah, thank you. As I've said a number of times, we're the world's leader, and we're trying to build this industry sustainable and for the long term. And so when we think about what we need to do to stand up this industry in the U.S., we think about supply chain, we think about training, and we think about the port infrastructure, and we think about the workers that we'll need. And so we've got specific initiatives to bring the opportunity to all Americans to participate in this industry. And one specific example of something that we did in New Jersey, we invested $11 million in Zeem Solutions, which is a electric truck initiative to convert drayage trucks at the Port of Newark into electric trucks and to build a charging station for those trucks with offshore wind. The communities around the Port of Newark are particularly susceptible to the pollution, just like many other communities in port locations. So we think that could be used as a model for other initiatives that we could do both on the East Coast and West Coast.
Well, thank you, and thanks for bringing that up in particular. I represent the Port of Los Angeles, so anything we can do around the ports is something important to me. I'm a firm believer that offshore wind will bring clean power to our coastal communities, reducing local air pollution from burning fossil fuels in California and other coastal states. Ms. Zeichel, as we look to develop offshore wind off the West Coast, what kind of port infrastructure upgrades are needed at our West Coast ports? I know you touched a little bit about the East Coast, so I wanted to get your input about the West Coast ports, and will this be an additional source of job creation?
So for starters, I think there's great opportunity for port revitalization, and it very well fits within the broader goals of a just and fair energy transition. The kinds of investments in port communities, whether you're on the East or West Coast, and even though we're talking about a different kind of technology for the West Coast, I still think you're going to see a lot of those same opportunities for port revitalization and the same kind of investments Mr. Hardy was speaking to. And not only, is that great from an economic perspective, but these port communities for a long time have been the underserved communities that have been struggling with some of the worst air pollution challenges. And with these opportunities, not only are we addressing the economic piece of the puzzle, we're also addressing the environmental and public health components as well.
Thank you. And right on time, Mr. Chair.